Hi.
Okay, Ken, if you would keep an eye on the waiting room and let people in as they, can you
Yep.
see it okay? And okay, at this point, I'm going to say good afternoon and welcome to the virtual reception for the San Fernando Valley Arts and Cultural Center's juried online exhibit, Height by Width by Depth. In the event we're Zoom bombed, I'll put everyone back in the waiting room. We've been pretty lucky so far.
Has
So
that happened before?
hopefully that won't happen. And I will mute everybody. So we're going to do that for now. You should be able to unmute yourselves. We'll just try and keep everyone muted while somebody else is speaking. Otherwise, it gets very weird. I'm Pat Bates. I'm speaking on behalf of the San Fernando Valley Arts and Cultural Center and its SCORE project. We did have to close our physical facility because of the pandemic last year. We have reimagined ourselves as a virtual exhibit space. It's going well. We're very pleased with it. At this point, I need to thank all of our donors. I need to thank the arts groups that have stuck with us. I want to give a special shout out to the Los Angeles County Arts and Culture Department and the Los Angeles City Department of Cultural Affairs. Their support is very crucial to keeping our mission alive. And we have actually been doing some small in-person exhibits in borrowed space during this pandemic time. And we will see what happens as we go forth. It should be very interesting. So I really welcome you. As I was mumbling before, I think I wasn't sure how this exhibit would look. It is amazing. I was just thrilled to see it. And there we go. So anyhow, at this point, I am going to introduce Carolyn Uri, who is the president of the San Fernando Valley Arts and Cultural Center. And Carolyn, you will need to unmute yourself.
Unmuted.
Yay.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Carolyn Uri. I'm the president of the San Fernando Valley Arts and Cultural Center. I've learned how to say that very quickly. This is the first time we've ever done a 3D exhibit. And I was really surprised at the quality of the work that came in. It was, you know, I get to look at all of the art very close up because I prepare it for our webmaster to put online. And I spend a lot of time with your art, which I really, it's very inspiring to me. Being sort of a non-artist, I used to do fine arts in college, but I just really loved looking at all the art for this exhibit. So many interesting things. As Pat said, you know, we had to close down our brick and mortar last year, which was really, you know, too bad because we really had a wonderful thing going on. And I really like Pat's word of reimagine ourselves because that's exactly what we did. I like it better than the word transition. We did transition into being all virtual, but we did reimagine ourselves going all virtual. And it's been a total success to our surprise. So wonderful to reach out to artists all over the world. We've gotten artists from Paris and Brazil and everywhere else. And it's been really quite interesting to see artwork that's not just local. And that's what we were. We basically we're just a local art gallery. The majority, I would say 99%, was all local. So this is really, it's really opened up our world quite a bit to be able to see all of this wonderful artwork. And congratulations to everyone for being selected for this exhibit. Charles, our juror, really spent a long time going through everything, all of the different art that was submitted. And I just think it's wonderful what he's chosen. So that's basically about it from me. I will comment, and talk to each one of the artists, throughout the reception here. So I would like to turn it over to, I don't know, because I never got the run of show. So who am I turning this over to?
I'll take on just for a couple of minutes.
Okay.
I'm Ken Roney, everybody. I'm the exhibit coordinator for the San Fernando Valley Arts and Cultural Center, and I'm the vice president of the organization. And so I'm the person that if anything goes wrong, they blame me, and I just accept it. And I love having things blamed on me. Makes me feel important. I'm also a sculptor, and so I can really appreciate the virtues of an online exhibit. I make fairly large and heavy things, 50, 7,500, couple hundred pounds, and they're not fun to drag around to art shows. And so it's, even though I didn't get accepted to this one, it's nice to be able to have large objects and show them off to people all over and not worry about dragging them there unless it actually gets sold. And then you're happy to ship it somebody. Anyway, so as you probably noticed in our perspective, we've changed things a little bit, prospectus rather. The gallery used to collect a commission on all the sales, and we handled the sales ourselves. And we realized we weren't making enough money on sales commissions to be worth our trouble. And by the time you collect sales and the sales tax and pay the tax to the state of California, it's so much commotion. So we decided just to let the artists handle these sales directly, and they can handle all the shipping arrangements and insurance and whatever they want to do with their buyers. So it makes it a little bit easier on us, and the artist gets the direct connection with the buyer. But anyway, so I guess what we want to do now, our juror won't be here till, okay, it's 5 minutes after, excuse me, it's 9 minutes after 5 Los Angeles time. And our juror said he'd be coming in about 5:45 or 6 o'clock. So, 45 minutes or so, maybe a little bit less. So what we want to do in the meantime, and the juror is going to talk about all of the winning pieces. So before the juror comes on board, we'd like to give the artists who did not win awards an opportunity to talk about their piece a little bit and explain what they did. And what we'll do is we'll have you, there's a thing down on the bottom here where you can, there's a screen share function. I believe you can see it. Or not screen share, raise your hand.
Raise your hand.
Raise your hand. And if you want to have a piece, your piece, we'll talk about it. We'll call it up from the exhibit. We'll click it. It'll fill up the screen, and then you can talk about it. So click on the raise your hand if you want to talk. And we'll just go through people one at a time and let them speak about their piece. And it's always very interesting finding out, what your plans are, what your thoughts are. And so if you want to go ahead and do that. Now, Pat, I can't see the list of people that have raised their hands.
You need to open up the participants window.
Yep.
And has anyone raised their hand yet? I don't see any.
Oh, okay, well, maybe that's why.
If they don't, I'm going to start calling on people, and you have to bear with me. We usually have a third assistant to operate this, but I shall be doing it myself, which is always interesting. So we're going to do this. And so basically what Mr. Crawford, we were talking about your pieces. Would you like to speak for us for a bit? And then I do see a hand up and we'll get you next. Rick Crawford was starting to tell us about his work before. Rick, which of the pieces would you like me to bring up? This, the Jules Fern or the porthole?
Turn off your mute, Rick.
There we go.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I thought I had unmuted it. Never mind.
How is that? Does that look okay? Can people can
There we go. Yeah, that looks fine.
see? Okay.
All right. My inspiration for this is, well, first off, I work with repurposed materials almost exclusively. I don't buy anything other than finishing materials and such. This is repurposed Douglas fir from some pure restoration work along the river here in Astoria. And I was able to talk the contractors out of all the scrap. I got a bunch. And I especially like, this is from a square beam end grain. So you're looking at the end of the beam, and I've drilled out the center pith, but in the process, got these massive checks. And I thought, oh, what am I going to do with it now? Because I'd started this on my wood lathe. I got a big wood lathe. And it sat and sat and sat. And then it dawned on me, my interest in archaeology, especially very ancient stuff, megalithic, Neolithic, the porthole slabs that you would find in ancient barrels. And so this is a abstract interpretation utilizing the figure of the wood. And so it kind of gave it like a bullseye. And after it was turned and carved, I scorched it with propane torch pretty heavily. I had it on fire several times. And then I wire brush it back with a steel brush, and then I give it a wash of ferrous oxide solution, which is made from white vinegar and steel wool and steel drillings. All the steel scrap that I have just goes into this bucket. And I just gather it up with a paintbrush down at the very bottom and try to put all that powdery material on. It takes about 4 applications to get it right. And then it gets hit with the fixative. And voila, there you have it. And the next one, if you'll go to that, it's the same process and same material. What I liked about it is if you see that the 3 branches coming in, it kind of remind me of a peace sign. And being an old hippie, I resonated with that.
All right, very good. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Very, very interesting.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to my rabble.
All right. Suzanne Storer, turn off your mute. Good. Now we'll look at your pieces.
Yes, I'm interested in talking about extremities.
Okay,
It's towards the end of the presentation. Yeah, this one right here.
Extremities. Okay, good.
Yeah. So my work is based upon drawings from figure drawings from life. And what I enjoy doing is looking at a viewpoint that becomes a complete whole, even though it's only part of the figure. And so in a way, it's kind of looking at the figure anew. And all my work are wall hung, and they're relief sculptures. So this comes out maybe about 7 inches or so from the wall. And I was a potter, so I'm using a lot of the textural techniques I learned as a potter now on the sculpture. And I apply a crackle slip, which does crackle in the first firing, and it allows me to stain it. So it adds a sort of texture to the piece. I really don't know of anybody working like this. I wish I did. but it's really in my heart. It's what I do. And a lot of my figures are not, if I wanted to sell everything I made, I would do beautiful women because that's what sells. But, you know, these are for sale, but that's not the primary goal. The primary goal is to create work that relays a compassionate feel towards people, whether they be homeless people in the park, my family, or others. So if anybody has any questions,
I do.
I'd love to.
What
Yes.
what kind of clay do you use for this? It is clay?
Yes, it is clay. It's a white clay mid-fire. So I fire, it's to be fired about cone 6.
Mhm.
And it's usually a little underfired. But it enables all kinds of colorants to be applied over the top. And
I see.
sometimes when ceramic colorants won't give it quite what I want when it comes out of the kiln, I add acrylic wash, which works quite nicely on the piece, and it doesn't come off, and it's there permanently.
All right, thank you very much.
Quite interesting. Thank you, Suzanne.
Yes, you're welcome.
Where do you
Thank
live?
you for having this show.
Where do you live, Suzanne?
I live in Ogden, Utah.
Ogden, okay. All right,
Yeah, where it's
welcome.
quite warm right now.
Okay, let's go on to our next artist. Their hand are up, Sherlyn Hendrick. Turn off your mute, Sherlyn,
Telling me that, yeah.
and give us a second. We'll find your piece here.
Yeah, there they are.
Okay, which one would you like to talk about?
How about the jackals, either with the orange one or the green one in the middle?
The middle, okay, fine.
One. Okay, so since I'm from actually currently living in Nelson, British Columbia, which is about 3.5 hours north of Spokane. And but I was originally born in Berkeley. So
Oh, the California girl.
the California girl, yeah. So all these pieces are from a solo show I had about a year ago called Caged. And the cage was about the stories we tell ourselves that keep us caged in patterns of thought and behavior. So this piece right here is ceramic painted with casein paint. And it's a pair, it goes with the other orange piece. And this piece was entitled Jackal and Hyde and was a play on Jekyll and Hyde story. That kind of character, you know, somebody appears to be one way and then they're another way. So if you show the orange one, you could get it, you know, they go together. This is the sort of scared but angry half of the Jekyll and Hyde, and the other one is the angry part. Let's see, how I made, this is the size of about a medium-sized dog. So it's pretty big and it's pretty heavy.
Wow. Wow.
And how I do them is I start from the bottom and I coil them up. So they're hollow. And so I just try to think 3-dimensionally as I go up, and I use a lot of pictures off the internet. And then, you know, I just make up my own, you know, expressions. And I'm interested in experimenting with simplicity of form and line, like everything toned down. And I don't know if any of you know about casein paint, but it's a real, it's one of the oldest paints. It used to be, that's how they painted the Egyptian tombs. And I like it because it actually kind of melds with the surface and looks like it's part of the surface. So that's, I don't know what else to say. That's kind of.
Oh, that's very good. Thank you.
Can we see the twin that's in orange?
Yeah, that. Since we're on it, that's the addicted lemur.
Okay. And then there's another one of it. There
Yeah.
we go. There we go. Wow.
And that's,
Very-
yeah. And
Now, do you fire this first and then apply the casing?
yes, I fire them first.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And I use a sculpture clay. I can't think of the manufacturer's name right now. It's pretty commonly used in the Bay Area, but it's not, you can, I think I fire usually to like 0.5, so, and it's quite sturdy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I used to work in bronze, but it's too expensive, so I started to go to clay.
Yeah. Yeah. Very nice. Look at those eyes. Amazing.
That's just paint.
It's just amazing. I mean,
Glasses.
they really.
If there's anyone else that wants to talk about their piece, just click the raise your hand thing. Oh, we got another one. Good. Somebody else raise their hand. Let's see. Owner, okay. I don't know what your name is, but go ahead. You've never put your real name in the Zoom video thing. Go ahead, owner. Yeah, there. Yeah, good.
Hi. Hi.
Who are you? What's your name?
That would be, I think that's me. My name's Kristen and Kristen Linseth and Linseth. And so if you go
Okay.
down to the L's, I have, these are my pieces here: Abandoned Village, Caught Between Worlds. This one is Caught Between Worlds. So these are series from a series on the refugee crisis. And some of them are floor standing pieces and kind of human figure scale. And this has just been, felt like the biggest crisis to me since Syria, well, actually since the earthquake in Haiti, that's when I started, 2010. But when Syria exploded with violence, that really struck me, and I planned a large installation, and they were shown up at Siskiyou Arts Museum in 2020, just as the pandemic started. So they went, we delivered them, we installed the show, had a reception in little mini cups and things that so people didn't touch anything, and then the show closed like the day after. And they then kindly extended the show an extra month. So it went for 3 months, but it was closed for the first 2. And thank you for cycling through. And so it reopened, and they're going next to show in Gallery Route 1 in the fall. But they are, yeah, this is a floor standing piece. So it's.
I've got a question. I'm trying to visualize. Is this thing standing on the floor right now?
Yes, yes. Uh-huh.
So supported by the skinny branches down below?
Yes, they're very, but you have to have a tripod at least, and they all have probably 5 points of contact with the floor. So they're stable, unless you run into one.
What's your medium?
They're kind of a bear to cast. I have been working in bronze for a number of years, about 24 years. Recently, with the pandemic, I switched to wood because I didn't have access to my college foundry where I teach, and we closed down the very week that I delivered the show, and I didn't realize we'd never get back onto campus for a year and a half. You can keep going through these too. There are 6 of them total. And so this is I wanted to represent the worst areas of the crisis, which are Yemen, Syria, and others. And this represented the beginning of the current worldwide crisis, which was in World War II, with the mass exoduses from Europe, the ghettos, the closing of the exodus of entire villages, and this represents a European village that's overgrown, abandoned, and all of the. If you go to the next slide, there might be back. It would be back. Yeah, it would be back, and it would be. I think there's some. Yeah, this is Yemen. And then so I also wanted to make
There we
reference
go.
to the historic architecture that's being lost to all of humanity, and the fact that we're all one. So I'm trying to include a lot of different parts of the world. So there are Bedouin houses in Syria, which have been left standing open and for wind and sand to blow through. The Bedouin who live there they've lost their goats and their livelihood, and it's still too violent to return. And so that's my.
Are these clay, and how big is this piece? I know you said some was wood.
No, none of them are wood. They're
Oh.
all bronze. And
Oh.
this one could have been clay, but I continued in bronze for this particular series. And the boats, the uprooted boats had to be, well, I've gone to wood now with the pandemic. So when the pandemic started, I used what was laying around my condo. And I had a lot of wood and mat board and wax. And
Yeah.
so I made, and so the next series is focused more on the climate change refugees or displaced people. And they are all wooden. And
How tall is the boat series on an average?
they're about 6 feet tall for the floor standing ones, and a little more than 6 feet. Yeah.
And the one we're looking at right now, how big is that?
It's about 30, 33, 35 inches tall.
Yeah, wow.
There are several of these in different configurations.
In other words, it takes some pretty substantial industrial duty foundry to be able to make these pieces.
We have a crucible that holds 100 pounds. And because of the fact that I do all the casting and every part of the process myself, I can actually afford to do it.
Sure.
So yeah, if you sent them to a commercial foundry, it would be prohibitive.
I've done a little bit of casting. I made one piece and I wanted to turn into a metal piece. It was a clay. And I started looking around. I know it's going to cost a fortune to get it done commercially. So I decided to do it myself. And I did it in pewter, because pewter melts at about 450 degrees Fahrenheit. And basically I melted it on a Coleman stove in my backyard. So you don't have to go to a commercial foundry if you want to go the other route. The pewter's not cheap. It's like, I don't know, $7 a pound or something, but at least you can do it. You're not paying a commercial, facility.
Right.
To do the work.
I have colleagues who have foundries in their homes too. So yeah, it's that you set up and you can do it if you've got, if you're living in a place where people aren't going to complain. There's smoke generated and yeah, that sort of thing. So yes, lots of different metals can be cast. Aluminum, pewter. Thank you, Leslie.
Where do you teach?
I teach at Mission College in Santa Clara, and at the museum in Santa Clara too, the Triton Museum. Although I'm not doing that currently, I kind of pared it down a bit. So when the pandemic started and we didn't have to drive anymore, it just spoiled some of us. So
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you. I
you.
do see our juror has joined us.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Let's go on.
Thank you. Thank you. Very
Thank you.
interesting. We have Kathy Colson's hand is up. I'd like Kathy to be able to discuss her work, and then we will go back to the PowerPoint and introduce our juror. So we'll do a Kathy.
Yeah, turn off your mute, Kathy.
Hi, I think I'm unmuted now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here we, oops. There we go.
Yeah. So these are sort of, I've been reimagining my two-dimensional paintings and then turning them into sculpture. And so that's sort of a new thing for me. One thing I can say is this exhibition has really inspired me. I want to go big now. So these are very small. So lots of sort of paper, they're stitched, painted, some canvas, all have like a copper wire mesh backing so that they're nice and strong. And then I can roll them and twist them, and then copper wire to sort of give them some tension. And they do actually create some really fantastic shadows on the wall, which is why I've called them umbra. So further back, or just depending on the light, lots of light shifting. So yeah, that's what I've been doing lately.
Thank you.
Fabulous, just fabulous.
Thank you.
I've got a question. The finish on those, the kind of an iridescent sheen. What's your finish?
So they're all acrylic. So it's lots of different iridescent paints. This one actually, you can see like it's actually done like a rust activator on them as well.
Mm.
And then it's the iridescence, and it's the two-way interference as well. So sometimes it picks up as green or gold or blue, depending on the different paints that I've used.
What is the frame made of?
So that's a wooden frame, but then I've used the patina. So it's the Modern Masters, the blue patina, actually, I think is that one. Yeah.
Works perfectly, yes.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
It's beautiful.
Are these iridescent acrylics?
Yes. Yes.
How did you treat your copper wire? Is it coated with something, or is it going to start tarnishing with age?
That's a good question. that's just copper wire, and I didn't treat it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so this will be a temporal kinetic sculpture. It's going to change with time.
Yes, ever changing. Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Very good.
thank you.
All right. Well, let's get with Chuck Shermer now, our judge. And
Hi,
Very-
am I in? Am I online here?
Give
Yes.
us 1 second here. We've got to share our screen.
Okay,
Hold on a sec. We usually have a little assistant here. I think we can see it. I'll just resize it a tiny bit for this. Carolyn, would you like to read Charles Sherman's bio, or shall I?
I can certainly do it.
Okay.
Los Angeles-based sculptor and jewelry designer Charles Sherman was born in Atlantic City, New Jersey in 1947. His work is informed by a lifelong study of ancient civilizations, world cultures, and religions. The forms he creates are minimalist, conceptual, and inspired by sacred geometry. His philosophy of life and art has always been the same: to promote the positive. His intention is to elevate the spirit of the viewer. Since 2002, Sherman has investigated sculptural forms that express the concept of infinity, especially the three-dimensional Mobius ring and variations of the tetrahedron form. He works in clay using the most primitive sculpture tools. His ceramic sculptures are hand-built using coil or slab construction. Sometimes he applies glass mosaic to ceramic or wood constructions. Some sculptures are transformed into cast bronze, stainless steel, or welded stainless steel. In 2006, he began translating his sculptural forms into sterling silver and gold jewelry designs. Welcome, Charles.
turn off your mute, Charles. You're on mute.
okay, is this okay?
Yeah, and turn your video back on. Now we just got to pick.
Okay, now I'll try. Okay,
Oh, good.
is this working?
Yes.
That's looking good.
Okay, well, thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for inviting me to be the juror. And that was a very nice introduction, Carolyn. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Charles.
The artwork was just it was like a huge challenge because everything was so good. It was more than good. It was like, the artists, there was such incredible creativity, such variation in style and movement and texture. So it was a huge challenge to judge this show.
Shall we go on to our award winners?
Yeah, go ahead.
Talk about,
We shall indeed.
okay.
Here we have honorable mention, Rebecca Spilecki, luxuriating.
Are you here, Rebecca? Are you with us? No, okay, well, let's.
Yes, yes, I'm here.
She's here.
Oh, you are, good.
Wonderful.
This was the second, oh, I don't know if I'm talking or if Mr. Sherman's talking.
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, I just like the uniqueness of the relief quality, and it was hard for me to figure out by looking at it exactly what the medium was. It looks like copper, but I'm not visually, I'm not even sure exactly what it was. But I just like the fact that she's so relaxed and the abstract quality. It's figurative and abstract at the same time, so I really like it a lot. It's got a nice movement and it's got a nice form to it.
Thank you so much. The medium is actually polymer clay. It's a black Sculpey. I started this series partially because I wanted to experiment more with reliefs because I hadn't done any in about 7 years, and partially because I wanted to experiment with the polymer clay because I don't have access to a kiln regularly anymore. So I figured something that I could still sculpt and cure in my oven would be nice. And there are liquid Sculpies, and when I use a lot of my full figure work, there are a few in here are gray. I have my gray ladies, and there's a black liquid Sculpey that I use in the same way I would use a black underglaze to do a wash on a bisque fired ceramic piece. But there are also these colored and metallic liquid Sculpies, and they seemed exciting. And I tried some on some of the gray pieces, and it didn't pop. It kind of just blended in. It made them slightly metallic, but it didn't pick out the details in the same way. And I thought that using the metallic as a wash on the black might allow things to really stand out. So I think in this show, there's both the piece that I tried the gold with, and this one has the silver on black, which gives the whole piece a little bit of a sheen. And then it really collects like light in some places. And I really liked the way that turned out.
Very, very nice.
Let's go on to the next one now.
Sabine. I know she's here.
Yeah, say hello to us, Sabine.
Well, I just love, I'm not Sabine, but I love stained glass. It looks like stained glass, and it's just the quality of the workmanship. It's really excellent, and I just love the colors. And it's hard to say no to a heart. It's just, I mean, it's about love, and it's just a very loving piece. Hi, there you are.
Hi,
Sabine.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Hi, my name is Sabine Snickers. It's the first time I'm joining a Zoom thingy. And so please excuse me that I didn't find that unmute button, but now I found it. So this is a relief for the wall. It's an art glass panel, and I used a blend of mosaic and kiln firing techniques to make this piece. It's mounted, it's all glass. The heart is fired several times in the kiln, and I added layer and layer upon it. And the whole piece consists of glass, and it's all iridescent glass that, depending on the angle, of viewing it, it shifts color. The theme of a heart, it's a theme I like to use a lot now, especially in these times now that we need to have some hopeful, uplifting messages going on. And the heart stands for peace and love, as George Harrison, no, who was that? Who said that from the Beatles? Love and peace was something one of the Beatles members always said at the end of a show. I think it was Ringo Starr.
He's in love. It was Ringo Starr. Yes.
Ringo Starr. Yes.
Yeah.
So this is part of my theme of a series of variations of hearts on the message of love and peace and harmony.
Sabine,
yeah.
How big is your piece?
This one is 12 by 12 and it's thick. It's mounted on a deep frame that I hand painted. It's mounted on a 2-inch frame, and the heart is protruding. It's thicker than all the pieces around it. So,
as usual, really beautiful, and she makes wonderful jewelry as well.
Thank you.
So yeah.
Sabine, you know what you might try doing, just for video for the virtual exhibits.
Yes.
Take 2 different photographs of that with lighting in different positions to show the different color, and then put them together as one image, so it look kind of like a diptych, if you will. That way people could see the way it changes with the light.
Yes, that's a great idea. Thank you. Yeah.
It's a very nice piece, though.
Thank you.
Say hello to Walter for me.
I will.
Where are you from, Sabina?
I'm a Santa Monican.
Okay, you're local. All right.
I'm a Santa Monican from California, but I originally speak Dutch and a little bit of French. I lived here half of my life in California, and the other half of my life I lived in Belgium, the Dutch part.
All right. Thank you. Let's go on to our next piece.
Okay.
Charles?
Okay, so this looks like ceramic, and I just love the mystery of it. To me, it's a very mysterious piece. It has the quality of a head with an open mouth, and I got the feeling of wonderment when I saw this. It looks like a raccoon firing, and it just really captured my imagination. So I also chose that for an honorable mention.
Leslie, are you with us today?
Hi, I'm here. Hello, everybody. And
Hi, Leslie.
I live here in the San Fernando Valley, and I create raku-fired ceramic pieces, mostly masks. And the faces I make are concerned with, I guess, with mystery, Charles, with mortality, with difficulties in seeing, being seen, and speaking, being heard. And I love using the raku process because it's creating something with fire. Fire is kind of my collaborator, and all the associations with destruction and rebirth from the fire, and the crackles and the flashes are part of my process. And this piece, it's so interesting to me that you saw wonderment in it, because I've had so many different reactions to it from people. Some people seeing the mouth ready to expel something. Some people see the mouth as ready to take in something. I saw it as a kind of whole, and an expression of emptiness and anguish, and like a full-throated scream. And the wood texture is referring to the climate crisis. Like even the trees wish that they could scream. Something like that is what I was intending. But I love that there's a multi-contextual whole other set of interpretations people make.
Well, that's the most amazing thing about art, is that everybody can see a work of art, and everyone can take away something else from it.
Most definitely.
I'm looking at it. It looks like this is made from a piece of wood, and I'm seeing wood grain. Is that correct, or is it something else?
Yeah, it was made with a slab construction, and I used wood grain to create a texture.
We'll have to go.
Charles,
Yes.
I'm getting car sick. I'm getting car sick watching your video. Okay, I think we can move on. Shall we move on to the next winner? Now we know Jason is here.
All right, Jason, come on, say hello to us. We'll see you.
Hi there. I found the mute button pretty quick here. I've been staring at it, seeing how everyone else is trying to find it. I was looking for it ahead of time. So hi everybody, and it's been wonderful seeing your art and listening to your purposes and your drive behind what you created and why and all that. There was a woman speaking. I think her name was Kristen. And I think she had owner as her name. I don't think she put her proper name down there. She's talking about, yeah, conflict in Yemen and Syria and all that kind of stuff and war. And yeah. So this kind of, I'm an artist, but I'm a martial artist. So it's kind of probably not something that we'd normally associate, I think, right now in the contemporary sense of art. But I'm trying to push that threshold. I'm trying to push those boundaries. And where this sculpture and my art that I've been working on for probably close to 25 years now and really sort of ramping it up over the last 15 up here in Canada, in Toronto, Ontario, is about maybe 15 years ago, you know, I'm teaching martial arts. I'm in my martial arts school actually, which is pretty dead, you can see because of COVID. But I'm teaching and I got my hands up and I'm teaching the kids and we would bring our hands down to here, and I've trained in Japan and Okinawa and all that, and they see this is called kite. The hands are back here, so there's a name for it, and it never really made sense why. And the kids would always ask questions, and the young adults would always ask questions, and then you know UFC started becoming popular and MMA and all that kind of stuff, and I started scratching my head throughout the 90s, late 90s, and then the early millennium. And it was just like something wasn't making sense anymore. It was like there was like a dead end, you know? And I started looking at this theme where when you take the hands away from the face, is that something sort of abstract, this source abstract in a person becomes more evident, where the features of fighting and conflict and war and something that is sort of very evident to being a human being is something that we don't really explore as a medium. And the way we would explore paint, or the way you'd explore a lot of the other mediums you're talking about, like your copper and your wood. And the gentleman was talking about the end sculpture he made with his big lathe, which is pretty cool. Though all those beautiful mediums that we're exploring as artists with, but not really fighting. So I started looking at how could I do that? So I've been working at that, and it's been a real challenge, you know? And I'm trying to bring the concepts back into martial arts. So anyway, this is where the sculpture came from. So during COVID, you know, all these things are happening. I'm looking around the house and I'm, you know, just like, you can't get material anywhere. It's like hard to get things mailed to your house. And I went, okay, what do I got? You know, I got to create something, you know? So I just basically took a bunch of coat hangers and I stripped them all down and found some yarn. And luckily it was yarn that was what I wanted, which was basically in the primary colors. And I created this sort of this theme where the box is sort of this three-dimensional, this cube is a three-dimensional sort of concept of what I call the threshold. And when we kind of come into life as a child, this adolescent experience where we understand fighting because it's so familiar. And you don't have to learn martial arts to know fighting. If I hold my hands up, you know fighting. If I yell at somebody, you say it's arguing. If you talk to a 5-year-old child, they'll tell you what fighting is. They do not need an education. So fighting is something that's very, you know, very natural to being a human being. And I looked at it more like an adolescent sort of venue that we're working through. And kind of going back to what that wonderful artist was talking about with her Yemen and Syrian sort of arts, you know, specifically focusing on what's going on there and the horrors that are taking place in this part of the world, is that it seems to sort of be this, this very adolescent sort of transition. And we're kind of made through each other. And I wanted to create something that sort of represented that. And where in words, I really struggle to try to explain that. And that's kind of what, you know, sort of, you know, became the sort of the, I don't know, the creation behind this, where within the center of these sort of individuals, the three of them in this sphere or in this sort of cube, you know, they're making each other, where one holds the color for the other. And what we don't see is we don't see the secondary and the tertiary colors that are created, you know, behind the scenes that become very ambiguous. And also through this dynamic relationship we share with each other is that we sort of morph reality in the way we perceive it. And that's kind of why this relationship of them making each other is also sort of morphing, and it's sort of, you know, augmenting, you know, this box that represents this threshold of the reality where when they're looking at it, they're seeing the same box, but it looks different to them. And so we kind of never quite see reality the same way because we're constantly always distorting it through our relationship. And the idea behind the art of what I see martial arts being is to sort of move beyond that threshold, to transcend that adolescent feature of conflict, to end war in a way through studying it, but not to avoid it. Because by trying to avoid it, we only create more of it. And you see that in Syria and what's going on in Jordan and what's going on right now and in Gaza and all this kind of terrible stuff, because these are interests of mine. So you see that. So basically, this sculpture is sort of an extension of how I see our relationship, you know, brewing through this dynamic argument that's taking place, this conflict, if you will, that isn't just ugly, but it's necessary and it's beautiful in a way, and it's leading us somewhere, and that somewhere might be a horrific sometimes journey, but with a little bit of refinement, maybe we can see that it's taking us somewhere beyond the reality that we already see so familiar, but can't recognize anything beyond it. I hope I
see something else. I also see something else in it. To me, when I look at it, and the reason why I chose it, I saw the interconnectedness and the weaving of life. And I did see the fight, but I didn't see the fight as something horrific. I saw the fight as like wrestling or something that's fun. So I didn't see the horror that other people may have seen. I chose it because I saw the interconnectedness and the relationships and the movement. It was very exciting. So that's why I chose it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
I also have something to say about it. As the first time I saw it on my screen, I started looking at this as people trying to weave a web, and we have a lot to learn from spiders. We're not doing such a hot job of weaving right now. So that's what I got out of it.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it was a pleasure doing it, and it was a pleasure sharing it as well.
Thank you for participating.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the next piece now.
Oh, can I ask a quick question about the stones? It looks like there's stones in those bodies.
Yes, those are whatchamacallit?
Cabochons?
No, I forgot the name. Where you wrap the yarn around them. Bobbins. They're bobbins inside the people, and the bobbin is in the center of the person's body. Is in the study of martial disciplines worldwide through the Japanese philosophies. It's called a hara, or sometimes in China they call it a dantien. Like if you're doing like whatever, if you're doing yoga, they call it the mula bunda. Like there's all these different names for the same thing, but it tends to be this sort of abstract place in us, and then through that, how we sort of extend into the world, and how the world extends into us, and usually it's associated with feeling and that kind of thing, not necessarily thought. And that's kind of what it is. So they're kind of extending through this bobbin that's unraveling out of them as this sort of connecting, as Charles was saying, this dynamic exchange, you know, or almost like this web, like Cameron was saying.
Oh, that's helpful. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, now back on the next one there. Oh, Kirsten.
Tristan, we know you're there.
We know you're here.
I chose this because just the simple balance of it. It's the simplicity and the balance and the grace. And I just loved it. It's just, I thought it was, to me, it's very beautiful.
It really is.
Thank you. This one is about 48 inches high, and it's bronze again, and a boat form. And my aim with this was to create a feeling of positive hope, a feeling of hope it's called Embarkation. It's about setting off for a new home, hopefully, for someone who's been displaced. And it's, well, just the upward thrust is meant to suggest hope. And that balance is fun because with bronze, you can mount something on a tiny little point like that. And if the balance is right, it will work. And it's so it's embarkation, and these boat forms have they're really about ways in which we can all be cut off in life, because psychologically as well as physically we get cut off through different things we go through, cut off from relationships, through loss, through my father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's as I was working on these, and I thought, oh, this could be, for him, setting off into the unknown. And I called the show Into the Unknown, the recent show that they were in. And the ones that are mounted on long roots, they're uprooted lives. And the length of the roots represents all that's left behind when people are forced out of their homes and away from their culture and their land. And then they're caught in limbo for years and years in most cases. So some are caught in the trees and different ways of representing being stuck in limbo. But this one was meant to have a hopeful outlook. And then I did a companion piece for this one, which is called Arrival. And the boat is again thrusting upward, and there are ladders made of roots which extend up to the boat as if help is arriving, rather
And you
than
definitely get the feeling of upward motion. So it feels good. It just feels good to look.
There's nothing about it coming down. It's all lifting up, which is just wonderful. That's the feeling I got too.
Thank you. I'm so glad, because this is what I hope for. It's what we do, in making ours. We try to survive what's going on around us, and that's kind of what I like to put out, is the idea of hope and helping. Thank you.
Very good. Very good.
The next piece.
There we go, Marty.
I am here.
Yay.
Hi, Marty. So I just like the overall fabric design. The photography was great. It's fantasy. It's mysterious. It's a great model. It's got the photograph itself is a great photograph, and overall it was just wonderful. And so that's why I chose it for first place. Excellent job.
Well,
It's
thank you.
primarily, I understand it's primarily the fabric. So I looked at the fabric or the textile design, and it was just really great.
Well, this was done with an old vintage 9-patch quilt. And my work is really about getting people to think about fast fashion and the enormous waste that the fashionistas create, both the designers, the industry. And so I've been making a series of really dramatic dresses out of old quilts. So I don't cut up good quilts, I cut up damaged old quilts. And this one was fun because it was completely made with zero waste. I started with one quilt and used every part of the quilt in this dress.
Wow.
And it has, I think, 9 zippers that make it come apart. And you can zip off the front part and stand on it, and the dress is a tunic. So it's really fun to have something that can be, changeable. And I hope by making work out of old quilts and old linens, people will think twice about buying fast fashion. They'll look in their closets and remake what they have. So it's been fun to work on this this project. I've been doing this, I think, since 2013, using old quilts to turn into all sorts of gowns and dresses. I have 3 other pieces that were accepted in this show, and one of them was made out of a probably 13-year-old big vinyl advertisement for a jeans company. And I sliced it up and moved it all around, so it has a very surrealistic face on it. And my son is modeling that. He's also a good model. And so I am not only using old quilts. I'll use any kind of old textile I can get my hands on.
Tell them how the photo should evolve.
Well, repurposing seems to be very, very big right now. But I want to say, I wish there was a video that came with this, because I would like to see how it moves. I'm just really curious at how the draping and everything would move as you're walking.
Right. So I built this on a dress form and started just laying out pieces. I cut up the quilt, the beginning of the quilt, into strips and started pinning them on my dress form at an angle. And by the time I got to the back, of course, that doesn't work anymore. And so I braided the back of this dress, looks woven, and then the pieces that from kind of the tush down, I left unstitched. So when this young lady twirls, she looks great. So I'd be happy to send you some photos of her.
Yeah, I would love to
different.
see.
There's some additional fabulous pictures of her twirling and moving in this. I can hold one up if you all want to see it. It's not ideal.
Sure.
You want to do that? Okay,
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, I'm not very.
Marty, I'd like to see you as the model wearing it too.
Oh, wow. Look at that. See?
So
that
so
is
see
terrific.
how, and then my husband, my assistant next to me, is going to pull up another one that's deadly sexy. And I thought it would be really fun. People go, oh, it's an old patchwork quilt. How can that be sexy? So let's see if you can see that. It's a little tricky, but I can send you more. She was a great model.
Yeah, terrific.
And this was the first time she had ever modeled. We were at an event in France, actually, and my son had asked me to bring 2 dresses as part of the art at this. It was a castle that he had rented for a week. And this young lady came up to me late one night and said, "Do you think I'd get in trouble trying that dress on?" I said, "Well, I guess so. It's not yours." But I said, "It's a good thing you're asking me, because I made it, and let's go." And so we just went into this empty ballroom, and she tried the dress on, and there was a photographer for the event, and he followed us. And that was just a magical late evening.
Oh, I can imagine.
Never
Yes.
modeled before. And she was
Wow.
so uninhibited. And I had never seen this dress worn by a person. And I'd also never seen it zipped up like that, or
Oh,
unzipped.
wow.
So
Wow.
she was very uninhibited, and it made the piece really look as good as it is. Yeah, it's a really fun dress.
That's a wonderful story. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's great to be part of this exhibit, and
show now.
especially to compete with the sculptors. It's a really strong show.
Well, I do want to let you know that at the end of the year, we have our Uncommon Threads show. And so, so look for that, because that would just fit in perfectly with what you have.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Very good. Okay, best of show. Yay.
Well, this one I chose just because I thought it was magnificent. It has a great form. It looks like it's a large outdoor sculpture. It has the spiral of life. And, but the bottom line to this, it's just so incredibly beautiful.
It really is.
I was, I am in awe of it. I just love this piece. So that's why I chose it as the best of show.
Are you with us, Jessica?
I'm here just unmuting. Thank you so much and beautiful work. And Marty, loved that dress you made. It's fabulous. I can appreciate the weaving that you've done in the dress. I actually went to fashion school for a few years before studying sculpture in college. But that said, it gives me a great appreciation for weaving and cutting materials. Now, granted, I'm using steel, and it's not so dissimilar. It's just a little tougher on the body to sculpt.
This is
now
a stunning piece. It's a stunning.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. And it was actually a happy accident making this piece. I've always been inspired by and work with sacred geometry to create the forms. Whether it be a light sculpture, an outdoor sculpture, public art, I kind of use that as a basis for construction, but it also lends itself well with basket weaving. And the inspirations I had for this piece was just a simple nautilus form, which is a fractal in everything. It's in all of life. You see it everywhere. Now, I had created this piece laying on its side originally. And when I was taking it out of my shop, my husband helped me bring it out to the paint room, and we stood it up and thought, oh, this is a better way to present it. It looks better this way. And I had built it in a completely different presentation than the way it's displayed here. And it just worked. So that was a fun, happy accident with this piece.
How did you bend the steel?
So I use hand rolling machines, roll benders, and different tools to cut and bend the steel.
And did you weld it?
Yes.
Great. So you're a welder.
I am a welder. I'm a fabricator, and I have been a fabricator for, I guess I started when I was 18, and I'm 49. So I've been a professional sculptor for all those years. And thankfully, I've had the success and sales and to be able to do larger pieces and do public art. And I'm currently working on a public art project in Oahu at the University of Hawaii. They have a new campus, and I'm working on a pretty large piece for that campus over there, and I'm excited about it. And that one is also going to be a kind of woven piece, but inspired by the native Hawaiians, the ancient Hawaiians there. It's exciting. I just love what I do. I'm very lucky and fortunate. I've worked very hard to get this luck and the fortune of being able to say I'm a professional artist, and have been since I was very young.
Jessica,
how big is this piece?
Now that's a 6-foot piece. It's not super huge, but it lends itself to, you could say it's 20 feet, you know, in the setting of photography. I do all my own photography. Also love photography and all art forms, as well as painting and fashion as well.
Did you follow the golden ratio in this?
I did, actually. And I use just simple geometry when I map out the pieces on the floor of my shop because they're so big. And, you know, I tweaked a little bit, but a lot of it's free-formed, but I do draw out the dimensional piece for these kind of pieces where I'm not making it as a commission, because I'm mostly a commission artist. So I don't get enough time to make a piece that's not commissioned. And it's great to be able to make a piece that's not commissioned. It's great to be a commission artist and have those commissions so I can pay my bills and buy new tools and drive a car or truck. But it's important to be able to find new methods and new inspiration and make pieces that are just coming from your heart. And that's what this piece was, which was great. So
what kind of steel is it? What kind of steel did you use?
That's just a mild steel and cold roll steel. and it's just
Okay.
painted.
It's painted steel. So
It's painted
so it's
steel.
curved, that curved steel. If you straightened it out, how long of a piece of steel? And is that steel bar or is it
It's a
tube?
combination of, I actually hand cut sheet metal into strips that are varying widths. So they're wider at one end and they're narrower at the other. So it looks more natural.
Okay.
And it looks like they're just bars, but when you look close, they're actually varied to give it a little more of a natural feel. And it does actually give this different illusion to it. But I'm going to say that piece was hundreds and hundreds of feet of steel, probably a couple thousand feet.
Totally. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It was
Hundreds,
pretty amazing.
hundreds of 20-foot pieces of metal. Damn. So
Well,
it's a lot of welds.
Congratulations. It's really a
Thank you.
wonderful sculpture.
Did you have a,
Thank you.
did you have a complete drawing of that piece or maquette or just an outline sketch and then kind of fill it in as you went?
This one was just a drawing, a complete drawing, and then I did a scale drawing on my floor in 3 dimensions to be able to get the dimensional aspect, the different bends, so that I could make it 3-dimensional. Normally, I would make a scale model for a commission project or something larger than that, and use that scale model to create a larger piece. Otherwise, I'm going to waste a lot of time and maybe make some mistakes. It's nice to make the mistakes in a scale maquette before you embark on something this large. This one is, I know it's 6 feet. It is large. You know, it did take me maybe a month or 2 to make this, but the larger pieces are much more difficult. You don't want to make errors.
Where do you live?
I spend half the year in Montana, in Paradise Valley, just north of Yellowstone National Park, and the other half of the year in Maui. So it's pretty tough.
Yeah.
I can't complain. Really, nobody would listen. Well, thank you so much for including me.
One of the things that I noticed that just caught my eye is that speck up in the upper right corner of the moon being curved, which matches the curve of your art. It just hit me.
You know, I'm glad you noticed it because it is a little thing in the corner that most people wouldn't notice. But when I'm photographing my work, I'm always looking at the moon and the sky and the clouds. And I have some pretty dramatic pictures of this piece, but sometimes it just really takes away from the piece because you're looking at the dramatic landscape. This one was a little more simple, but I liked it because it did have that moon. Thank you for noticing.
You're welcome.
If I could say a word, thank God I looked very closely. I almost photoshopped it out. I thought it was a speck. And then I look close and I go, oh my God, it's the moon.
Yep.
You of all people, Pat, who's photographing the moon all the time, you should know better.
Well, it's kind of small. But,
yes, it is.
And then I have been doing so much paperwork and computer work. I think my eyes are going, and I just had the little magic eraser ready to go, and oh no, it's the moon.
Well, thanks for keeping it.
Yeah.
Jessica, a quick question.
Needs to be there.
Jessica, Rick Crawford here. Quick question. Since you live on Hawaii, are you familiar with the Hawaiian Artist Collaboration on the Big Island?
You know, I've actually read about it and seen some calls online, but I'm on Maui and I haven't really pursued it because I'm pretty busy all the time, and putting a piece in a show over there is pretty difficult, seeing as they're large, and most of the work I make is here. And in Maui, I'm just making the maquettes for the public art and smaller pieces, but still it's an island away. But I have heard of it, yes.
Yeah, it's an artist collaboration. You would not be bringing any pieces. You'd be helping make pieces collaboratively, which would be sold at auction.
Oh, I'm thinking of something else then.
Yeah, look up Hawaiian.
I'll look
Artist
into
Collaboration.
it. Very interesting.
It's at Ty Lake's place on the Big Island. And Ty Lake is a furniture maker.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
I have to bow out. I have to, unfortunately, go check on all the work that my brother is doing on the outside of my house. So, but thank you, everybody. I really,
Thank you.
I think it's a terrific show, and really enjoyed it. I mean, I think this is something that we can continue with for next year as well.
Yeah.
Great, and thank you so much for inviting me to be the juror.
You're very welcome, Charles. We're lucky to have you. Absolutely. And please look up Charles. His sculpture is just amazing.
CharlesShermanArt.com. CharlesShermanArt.com.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye.
If there's any other artists that are here who would like to talk about their piece and have it be featured, just hit that raise your hand button, and we'll call on you and then bring up your art.
We have just a couple questions in chat. One was how many pieces are in the show? Ken, do you know?
I believe it's something on the order of 120.
Yeah. And I also do not know how many were submitted for consideration. There's a question about
Approximately twice that many.
Yeah.
So our juror had a good selection of pieces, and we asked him to limit it to somewhere around 120 pieces. Anything more than that starts becoming a bit unwieldy, and people start clicking through it and start dozing off before they get to the end.
Yeah. So anyhow, yes, I would be glad to spotlight if anyone else would like to discuss their work or discuss any other pieces. I know Marty had a couple other pieces she was referring to. Perhaps we could take a look at those. Let's see.
Looks like Marty's gone now.
No, I saw her. She's there.
I'm here.
You can't hide from me.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
I may just have to resize the screen a tiny bit, but let's see how this comes out. There we go. And I bet I know where that is.
This was another lucky day. So this was taken, of course, in front of the Louvre, right? As dawn arrived, I had a friend who told me she was heading to Paris and always wanted to try on this dress, which was at the same castle event as the first place winner was. And this dress was still in Paris. And so she flew in, got permission to pick up my dress, rushed over to the Louvre before it became crowded with people at early morning. And this is the same photographer, Sharon Avraham from Israel. And it's just beautiful. I had never seen this dress flung up in the air. And this young lady just made the dress look even more bodacious. It was really fun. This was the first dress I made out of old quilts. It took 7 different vintage quilts to get enough fabric to make the dress. It has an enormous skirt. And then this is the one that was made out of this giant heavy vinyl poster. And Oceanside Museum of Art asked me to be in their fundraiser last October. And so I thought, I've always wanted to do something with the poster, and they wanted it to be avant-garde. And so this was what happened. And this, when my son put it on, it looked better on him, the cape, backwards than forwards. So he wore it backwards, which is now, of course, the right side. He did a great job. And of course, it was during COVID conditions, so he was masked up for the runway. And I shredded a lot of old jeans, so all the texture and fabric you see is out of that. And there was very little of the poster left. Again, my goal was to use everything. So the cape is the size it is because that's the fabric that, or the poster that was left. I lined each bit of this and a soft fabric so it feels nice when you're wearing it underneath. And then the cape can come off, and there's a jeans top connected to the face, so it can be worn like that. And then the heavy neck braid can be taken off and worn on your head as a crown. So I love to have things changeable. And then this is made out of a World War II yo-yo or Suffolk puff quilt. And the original quilt is behind the woman. And it was made by Joan Crone of San Diego. She made it with her grandmother and mother during the war to pass the time, she said. And so the first quilt she gave me, I made into this dress, and the back of it, there's a lot of skin showing on the back, so it's very beautiful. And after she saw the dress made, she said, "Oh my God, I have another of these quilts." And so I love that it kind of disappears, that the woman is invisible, because oftentimes women have been treated as invisible. And so I was just thrilled to be able to reconstruct that quilt. It was falling apart, so I had to stitch all those little yo-yos back together and create a way to suspend that without too much stress. And the dress construction, again, was built on a dress form, but I have little tiny fabric where all the small areas are, so that there's enough structure and strength that this quilt doesn't, rip.
Beautiful.
So this was really great to make. It was fun.
Okay. Do we have anyone else that would like to share their work?
I would like to say the fact that we have had COVID has helped us have many online exhibits. And for those of us who make heavy things that are difficult to ship, I just say I'm so grateful, because my dresses are very expensive to ship compared to art quilters. And certainly to like Jessica's work, it's impossible to enter things that are so large and heavy. So it's been a really good experience.
Okay.